Welcome again. Thank you for joining our global webinar day here at InfoSim. Our topic today is managing phantom devices. My name is Dietmar Kneidl, Director of Sales Europe with InfoSim. I'm going to be your moderator for today's event. Joining us from our headquarter office here in Würzburg, Germany is my colleague Hendrik Degener, one of our senior developer and consultants. Hendrik has been with us for about 4 years now, has worked for Siemens and Fujitsu before joining our ranks, and also has a master's degree in computer science. So good afternoon to you, Hendrik. Welcome to the webinar.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everybody.
All right, well, before I hand over control to Hendrik, just a couple of things that you should know. First off, you're automatically muted joining the webinar just to keep down the background noise. So if you have a question, just type it in the questions window of the webinar application. We're going to be taking care of all those questions either directly during the webinar in the chat or at the end in our Q&A session. So if you have any questions, let us know. We're recording this event, and you're going to see a short email from us tomorrow on how to access that recording. So that's all from my end. Like to turn over control to Hendrik now. Hendrik, you ready?
I am.
Alrighty. Well then, take it away.
Thank you. Okay, so let's talk about phantom devices. Actually about the phantoms in your network and how to detect and integrate them and to retain control in the future, of course with StableNet. And in the end we will have our usual question and answer session that has already been mentioned by my colleague Dietmar Kneidl. Okay, so do you know these scenarios? At nearly every initial discovery at customer side, somebody is saying, wow, okay, this device, this should not be there. What device is this? Well, I have to talk to our admins. So you see there are often devices connected to the wrong network, for example. So this might be printers, or somebody might have brought his own device from home. And yeah, there might also be test devices that are not really part of any process because they are tested at the moment and maybe not properly inventorized. And then there might be those old devices that are reactivated when all of a sudden maybe an intern appears that you did not really expect, or if you have some external colleagues that definitely need a computer in your domain. So might also happen, and it does happen even in the real world, even though you might have guidelines and processes, you might stick to best practices, you might have a CMDB and a proper inventory management system, but somehow some of those devices, those phantom devices, slip through. So what happens is that they become invisible. So invisible could mean that when we are talking about a printer, for example, you might not be able to connect to this printer. You might not be able to print over it because it's it's just in the wrong network. But it might also mean that you do not even know that those devices exist. And if you do not know that they exist, if nobody really knows that they exist, they might soon become vulnerable, because nobody really takes care about them. So there might be missing patches, they might be misconfigured so that they become vulnerable due to this misconfiguration. And if you think about IoT devices, for example, you have very popular examples at the moment in the news. So like the Zigbee attack on the smart light bulbs, so that you can turn them on and off. So very easy to intrude them. And so it's really important to know which devices are connected to your network and if they might be vulnerable, and so that you can act. Furthermore, they might, not really the light bulbs, but other devices might generate heavy traffic on your network, and you might not even know where this comes from. And often those devices that you might not know of, another colleague knows and uses them on a daily basis maybe. And it is very likely that they are not backed up because they might not be managed in any way. And if such a device crash, you lose much of time because you have to reactivate it somehow. You maybe have to restore the old state. Without backups, very difficult. So you might lose really important data and time. So these are a whole lot of reasons to talk about how to detect and integrate those phantom devices. So what do you want? Or what do we think that you want? You want to reveal the devices so that you know that they exist. And if you know this, then you want to keep track of them so that you do not forget about them, so that the IP address of those devices does not get lost because you, through the paper, you just wrote this IP address on that you throw it in the trash. And if you have revealed them, then you want to unmask them. So you want to extract some information about those devices and want to know how those are integrated in your network. Maybe also who's responsible for those devices. And if you have this information, so you want to organize them. So this means you want to incorporate those phantom devices in your network management system, or maybe just get rid of them because nobody's actually using them, and they should have been gone a long time ago. Sometimes it's also necessary to execute some administrative tasks like installing missing patches, integrating them in your backup mechanisms, and so on. But there are also things that you do not want. So you definitely do not want to disturb daily business. So this means when you do not want to put heavy load on your network just to detect those phantom devices, or do some very heavy port scans on your whole network so that the firewalls are just burning. And what you also do not want is generating false positives in your NOC. So if you incorporate these devices in your network management system, they might be not according to your usual standards. So they might generate some alarms, which you do not want, because actually it's not, the phantom devices are not completely meeting your standards. You want to do some configuration, installation, and so on first. So you do not want to make them alarm before they are ready to do so. Okay, so now let's take a look at a simple approach, yet powerful approach, to discover those phantom devices. But first, let me give you a definition. I have now referred to those phantom devices like for some minutes, and actually for us a phantom device is something that should be monitored but is not currently under management of your network management system. So pretty easy definition. So how do we detect them? So what we can do with this simple approach is to discover relevant IP address ranges. And we can combine this discovery with a reverse DNS lookup, which is which might not work for all devices because in nearly invisible devices might not be maintained in your DNS. So, but it might be worth a shot. Maybe the name of a device gives you a hint who's responsible. What you also want is to omit known devices so that you do not change the configuration in your network management system of already existing devices, so that you only grab out the devices that are not yet under control of your network management system. And of course, you need to track them. You want to apply some sort of a tagging mechanism to those devices so that you know that they're phantoms. And with this approach, you can easily reveal them. So what are in the next steps? You could check the SNMP access with default community or the enterprise-wide standard communities. This might reveal very helpful information about the system location, or the respective contact. You can generate a report with the existing information that you have. So this might be an IP address, DNS name, or the SNMP data that you have extracted from the respective device. This might indicate the responsibilities, and it gives you hints about how to about who to ask about the next steps if this device can be disposed, and so on. Furthermore, you can explore the connectivity with other devices. So what you can do is take a look at the routing table, protocols like MPLS, BGP, LLDP, CDP, ARP tables, and you could also explore the net flow data in your network to get the all data that you can get hold of, so that you can really unmask those devices and see what is this, what you have there. And as soon as you have this information, you can talk to the admins. You have different possibilities, because you can decide on should the device be removed, and if not, you can ask for a service user configuration, or generate with an NCCM system. You can also apply such service user configurations as a default mechanism. You can configure, or you should configure SNMP to get more data, and you should also update the device information in your network management system and your CMDB if you have one. Furthermore, you can check for automation opportunities so that you can so that you do not have to apply all these tasks that I just talked of in a manual way, so that you might, for example, configure SNMP on dozens of devices using an automation possibility and not by hand, so that you can organize your phantom devices in a good way. Once you have organized them, you want to make sure that you are that detecting and managing and handling those phantom devices becomes part of your process, so that you retain the control, retain the organization. And I want to show you how you can do this with StableNet. StableNet can be the technical aid to support this process. With the standard StableNet functionalities, you have lots of possibilities. You have the automated discovery to implement the IP address discovery. You have sorts of a tagging mechanism, and you can, with StableNet 7, for example, or StableNet 6, you have the categories, and in StableNet 8 you will have the so-called tagging. So that you can have an arbitrary amount of tagging possibilities on nearly every StableNet object. You have reporting capabilities, so that you can create lists about still present phantom devices. You have the NCCM module, so that you can automate the tasks that you can automate, so that you only have to do by hand what you really must. Furthermore, you have the multi-agent support, so that you can apply this phantom detection and de-phantomization process very easily in your whole network. So the first step is to generate a discovery. But what you do not want is to interfere with daily business. So of course, you have the possibility to adapt the execution time and the thread count so that you only crawl your network in search of these phantom devices on maybe midnight, and that you reduce the parallel executions in the background so that you put less load on your network. Also, when generating a discovery with StableNet, you can, of course, specify the phantom detection in a very easy way. So I have brought an example with me. So what we do here is we create a subgroup named phantoms, and we put in here all devices in this IP range that is specified here, and what we do is we set autopause to fails, which means that we, if there is a device that is currently, or well, we skip the, I will start here, I will skip the existing, we will skip existing devices that might be under management but are in between those two IPs in this IP range, and we disable the automatic positioning for those phantom devices so that they stay in this group. So a very easy approach, but what we did not cover here is that you do not want to raise false positives in the NOC. So we will refine this phantom detection a little more so that we specify that we do not want to alarm for the following devices, and that we apply a user configuration so that we specify that only the phantom admins in this case can even see those devices, and that the normal NOC user is not disturbed by those phantom detection that runs in parallel to the daily business. So, and once you have those devices in your system, you can generate phantom reports. So you can generate a list and try to reduce it, or you should definitely reduce it so that you get actually rid of those devices that you would call a phantom device. What you can use in StableNet is, for example, the inventory device details table, which then might look like this. So in the very basic case, when you do not have SNMP data at hand, for example, so you might only have an IP address and a DNS name. But that's a good start. You can do lots of things with them. So good thing to have. And once you have those devices in your system, you can also apply the NCCM functionalities of StableNet to them. So you can configure those devices. If you know the credentials, you could, for example, generate a script to configure SNMP on them, or respective IP addresses, etc. And this leads to even zero-touch provisioning scenarios. You can also update your discovery database automatically. This might be done by a bidirectional CMDB integration, for example, that you can, of course, also do with StableNet. You have the backup functionalities of StableNet, which means that you are less likely to lose important data or configurations. And you can also do the policy checks, the vulnerability checks, and the end of life, end of service, well, EOX checks as well, so that you keep track or you make sure that the devices that you just discovered are, that they become safe again. So how does the whole process look like? At first, you have your devices database or a CSV file if you're using them. So this might also be your CMDB, and StableNet uses this information by its regular discovery mechanisms to discover your network and to update the StableNet inventory. So this is the very basic discovery mechanism that most of the people use. And what you can now do is to create a parallel discovery, a phantom discovery. And this phantom discovery does not use directly use your devices database. It crawls your network. It detects the phantoms in, as said before, and creates a separate space in your inventory, the phantoms. And using those phantoms, you can perform some kind of a dephantomization, which means a reconciliation process, which is actually a mixture of manual and automated tasks. And after the phantoms in your StableNet inventory become dephantomized, you can then update your devices DB so that they become part of your regular discovery, and they come from this phantoms part, and about these mechanisms will become part of your StableNet inventory and your CMDB if you want that. So that's theory. So let's have a short look at how this looks like in StableNet. So what I have here is, I prepared this for you. So you have the normal, the normal devices, a part of our InfoSim infrastructure here, and this part are the phantom devices that I have just discovered. And as you can see here, I had some matches in the DNS, so I can maybe I take this device and I see, okay, it's named Caligula. Maybe I even maybe I know the colleague who named it like that, so might be might be already helpful to know how this device is named in your DNS. But even if you only have the IP address and nothing more, you can check, for example, the connectivity, as I said before. So what we will do is we will check the connectivity. And even though we only have the IP address, we can see, oh cool, this device is connected to the switch intern 20. And knowing this, we can take a look at this switch. So we have the switch intern 20, and okay, this one has SNMP enabled, and we have lots of information, for example, the system contact. So in this case, our CTO, Marius Heuler. And so if I don't know about this device, maybe I should ask Marius what this device is, and if maybe we can dispose it. Maybe it shouldn't be there, etc. So you can really extract lots of information using such connectivity information. And what we can also do is report on them, as I said it before. So let's take a look at the report dashboard. After I just showed you the configuration, so it's just a very simple report with only the inventory device details table, and we can see how this looks like. We take a browser, and you can see, okay, these are my phantom devices. So I see I have 23 of them, so lots of work to do. Okay, so and that's it for the short live demo, and I think we're done for the presentation. So we can move on to our question and answer session.
Thank you, Hendrik. Quite interesting. I am just about to upload the slides Hendrik has been using in PDF format to our download section, so the file should pop up any minute now in the GoToWebinar application. In case you cannot download it, just send us a quick email, and we're going to send it back to you. I have an off-topic question about the bidirectional CMDB integration you mentioned, Hendrik. One of our attendees wanted to know how would that work? How is that sorry, how is that integration being done?
Okay, so I think I will go 2 slides back so that we can see how the bidirectional integration can be done. So one direction I have already shown. So that's the discovery that is actually using the CMDB, using, for example, the JDBC interface. And the other direction, if you when you want to update the data in your CMDB, this is it is possible. It is often done by on the basis of professional services. And what we do is we give you a custom service job that you can and that will pop up here, and we define with you how you want the data to be updated. All the maybe you have some devices that you do not want to touch in your CMDB, stuff like that, and some fields that you want to be updated, and some of you don't. So there's lots of customization involved in here, and normally we do it on the basis of professional services. And then you get your job. You can schedule it so that maybe after the discovery that is taking place in your network, you can then schedule this job, and it automatically writes the new information back to your CMDB.
All right. Thank you very much on that. I have a couple of more questions, and since we got another 2-3 minutes, I think we can squeeze in 2-3 more. So there was another attendee who wanted to try to automate SNMP configuration on certain devices in this network. Not entirely sure if he's talking about phantom devices, but I guess he is. So can you elaborate on, is this possible, and if yes, how would this be done?
Okay, so it is possible with our NCCM module. What you can do is you can create configuration jobs, and those configuration jobs, we have different types of them, and the most powerful type is the so-called template-based configuration job. And with this template-based configuration job, it's nearly like, I don't want to say programming language, but a little bit like this. You can specify steps, and with these steps you can specify your own logic that you want to apply. And if StableNet tries to connect to a device, it usually uses as a very basic method, because when we take this device, StableNet does not know about this device in any case. So it tries a telnet or SSH approach. Depends on how it is configured in the inventory, and as you can, for example, see here. So you can configure CLI access. Actually, you should. If you want to StableNet to take care of all the configuration, the communication between this device, then you have some sort of an SSH connection possibility, and with SSH you can then connect to the device and configure SNMP there in a shell sort of, like when you are on a shell on the system. If this does not work, you also have the possibility to use an own configuration script that you can also use here. So this means that that you can write your own script. If you want to apply such SNMP configuration, you definitely need to know how to what devices do you have? Is it a Linux? Is this a Windows device or something like that? And so you can write, for example, a script that checks certain parameters and logs in, and but that's that's some sort of customization and configuration that you have to do, because it's your device. You know how to how to configure it. But it's definitely possible with StableNet. As soon as you have the device in your inventory, which we can do with our phantom detection, because we do not need much to get it in the inventory, as you've seen. And as soon as it is here, you can schedule a job on them and configure it.
Alrighty. Thank you very much for that explanation, Hendrik. Now, I have another question that just popped in from one of our attendees that might be a little bit more challenging. I'll read it to you as I just received it. Our attendee states that for him a phantom device would be like an iPad or another device which is connected to his company's wireless LAN, or it could be like a private laptop connected to the company's Ethernet switch. How would it be possible to detect those devices? So I assume he's talking about devices that are, only there for a short time, or, they're on an unregular basis, either through Ethernet or through wireless LAN. So are there any methods that come into your mind that, we could use to detect those?
When you, when I think about devices that that are not in your, that are not, maybe they do not have a static IP. So if you have, for example, DHCP configuration, you might check on those those DHCP ranges more often, so that you know what's happening in this segment of your network. And once you have the once you have a new device in there, you could check if it's already in your system, and maybe apply this phantom discovery approach on these segments. What else do we have? We had what was that? An iPad and some device.
I think he's probably talking about mobile devices that you just connect to the company VLAN. It could be a mobile phone, could be an iPad, it could be anything that is sort of mobile.
Yeah, it really depends on on how you define this this phantom device, such phantom devices. I do not really get what exactly the use case is, but maybe whoever put this question can just write us a short mail, or we can come back to you on that. So I do not really know what's the exact use case, and maybe we should just talk about it.
Okay, well then in that case, this is to the attendee who asked that question. Just drop us a quick email at Kneidl@infosim.net or Degener@infosim.net. I have stated both of our email addresses in the chat before, so just scroll up a little bit and send us an email so we can discuss this. We'll probably make this a repeat Q&A in our next webinar, so we will inform you of the outcome of this. So we're already 5 minutes over our defined time slot, so I guess we're going to answer all the other questions that have popped in through email, so don't worry about that. We have, of course, more web sessions and other material available. There's a big resource section on our website that you can dive in and find more information. And of course, there's always the way to contact us through phone, email, or other channels. So thanks again, Hendrik, for the session. Very, very educative. My new favorite word is de-phantomization. I'm not sure if that's an English word, but it's definitely on the top list of my new favorite words. We need to de-phantomize this. So thank you everyone for joining our session today. As I've said before, we've recorded this webinar, and we're going to send you a quick email tomorrow on how to access the recording. So as usual, we're going to keep the session open for a few more minutes. If you have questions or remarks, just type them in. We'll take care of them. And that's all from us today. Hendrik, any last comments?
Really, thank you for joining this webinar, and thank you for listening.
Alrighty. Just a last remark, our next global webinar day is going to be December 15th, as you might have guessed, another Thursday. If you are on our mailing lists, you're going to be getting an invite within the next 2-3 weeks with topics and more details. If you are not on our mailing lists, I invite you to subscribe to them and join to them, visit the website. There is lots of information there on how to join those lists. Well, thanks for joining us and enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.